your experiences, to capture those and kind of make sure that we can kind of share them before we all kind of head back out into the world and back to our 9-to-5s. So the aim is really to build a collective understanding of the state of data in WASH programming, to identify barriers, research gaps, to learn about who is doing what, where in this space, and to showcase some of the current and future initiatives that improve the way that data is kind of leveraged for producing quality, for helping quality in our WASH programming. So data is really a resource that's so key to much of our programming, much like kind of funding or human resources or knowledge. It's something that we've really had a huge amount about in the last 4 days. I don't know about every session, but certainly in the sessions that I've attended, data has been this kind of thread that runs all the way through. Whether it's complaining that we don't have enough data, that the data isn't the right flavor, if it's not the right quality, that we have too much data in the wrong format, we don't have the ability to process it. We can't get hold of enough data from the people who own and collect that data. We're not sharing it efficiently enough. But we've also heard about how the WASH landscape is changing in terms of data, with new data sources coming online, new tools, new approaches for analysis, and ways of sharing. So as researchers, as program managers, coordinators, donors, we're able to access and make use of potentially more and more data in faster ways and share that data better than we ever have done before. And we've also heard how many challenges there are still to be tackled. So data is often frustratingly scarce. And there's still so much to learn about how to make the best use of the data, how to apply that data, how to understand what that data is telling us to drive more effective, efficient WASH programming. So in this session, the aim is to offer a space to reflect on what you've heard over the past few days, to learn from these co-convening organizations, and to share some of your experience, both from here and in the field. It's going to be a session based around discussion. So if you're here to sit in front of lots of presentations and just kind of soak in information, it's maybe not the right place for you. We're going to be hearing from each of the co-convening organizations. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to kind of pitch a theme that kind of characterizes something that they've experienced in their work, something that they're striving to change, maybe a challenge. So you'll have a quick kind of elevator pitch from each of these organizations. And then we'll jump into some discussion groups, each hosted by one of those organizations, and we'll have the opportunity to kind of go into a deep dive, to share experience, and to have a discussion. So we've got note takers in each group. Thank you so much for the Mortenson Center for providing students to take notes. And we'll be synthesizing what we hear today and writing that up and using that as a stepping off point, hopefully, for next steps into the future. So we have 4 discussion groups. And we'll talk about the themes in a second. The plan is to split up into those 4 groups. And we're going to have kind of 15-minute rotations. So jump into your group. Have 15 minutes to talk around that theme, and then I'll let you know after that 15 minutes is through, and you'll be able to, if you want to, switch group. So you'll be able to get through 3 of these 4 groups. So the 4 themes, and you'll be hearing more about these: open data, data transparency, attribution, and sharing data from the Open WASH Data Project and mWater. Theme 2 is data driving action with Aquaya. Theme 3, data integration, forecasting and collaboration with the Mortenson Center. And then finally, measuring what matters. So looking at data collection, looking at indicators, etc., with the Humanitarian Water Lab. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first team, OpenWash Data and mWater. Yeah, come up to the microphone. And you're next, so you can.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mian. I am a data scientist working for OpenWash Data at ETH Zurich. And all my background is from mathematics and computer science, which I hope to bring a different perspective here in the WASH and to learn new stuff from WASH sector. So what is OpenWash Data? We are trying to build an open data community that is globally active on making everyone who is interested in making WASH data more accessible, shareable, and reproducible to develop data packages as a service, as well as offering training opportunities. For example, our first free online course, Data Science for WASH, is starting next week. So be sure to scan the QR code to know more and just talk to me if you're interested.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Sydney Hubbard. I'm a researcher at mWater. mWater is a free open source digital platform used mainly, or at least it started for data collection and management related to water and sanitation. It's actually expanded across sectors now. We have data capture related to the health sector, agriculture, communities, schools, and that's what its sister brand is used for, Solstice. And it's used by governments and utilities, local NGOs and researchers, and international organizations and large NGOs. And the platform is kept free by using direct contracts with utilities or with larger organizations, so that anytime we develop a good, it can then be used on the free platform for anyone who wants to open the platform and use it. And we really pride ourselves on working with our local stakeholders, with local governments to see what they need out of management information systems, creating those for them, and then the data belongs to them. So I'm really excited to be with all of you today and talking about open data.
Very much. Quiet.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. And thanks, James, for hosting us today. I'm Rachel Pellets. I'm the executive director of the Aquaya Institute. And Aquaya is a nonprofit research and consulting organization dedicated to improving health through universal access to water and sanitation. So, we still don't have all the answers. And one of the things that we say is, Aquaya, we answer your toughest water and sanitation questions. We know that data and innovation is one of the accelerators for the Sustainable Development Goals. And Aquaya has worked in 24 countries. We have staff in 7 countries full-time, 6 of whom are here this week. So you may have met some of my colleagues, Bashir and Anna, are here today too. And we publish in peer-reviewed journals. So we conduct research that is at a scientific rigor where we have peer-reviewed publication. And we're really excited here today to talk more about data into action and how we can be using data to inform decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Both sides, yeah.
Okay. All right, so you can tell I'm definitely the academic of these slides, so apologies, but I'm Laura. I'm the managing director of the Mortenson Center in Global Engineering and Resilience at the University of Colorado Boulder. Did I take up my minute by saying that? So I'm here standing in for my colleague, Dennis Mutike, who had to leave early for the airport. But as managing director, I have the pleasure of working with our many graduate students and undergraduate students. But in addition to that, we have a pretty wide research portfolio. So we were lead on the USAID Sustainable Wash Systems Learning Partnership, but also in the last 4 years, we brought in about $10 million for research to generate evidence for action. So our goal is to improve lives through our education, research, and partnerships by conducting work that improves development tools, policy, and practice. So I'm not a PC person. Thank you. So we have a range of research that we do, but I wanted to highlight that for data integration, forecasting, and collaboration, we conduct research on watershed management and technology, in situ and remote sensing, and drought resilient research. And this is my colleague Dennis's favorite slide with a lot of tiny figures. But essentially, through in situ data collection, we then take a step for data integration across data types, and then improve decisions through direct decision support and collaboration with government agencies for improved decision-making and service sustainability. So the theory of change essentially goes, we take data on water availability, use, and water quality. We then apply spatial and temporal modeling and forecasting of those water resources, combine that information with climate finance and ecosystem services payments and user fees with a goal of climate resilient water management for improved water security. I think one way that we really make sure that the evidence that we're gathering is analyzed correctly is that we have expert data scientists on our team, which is something that I'm seeing increasingly in the WASH sector. And having been here for 15 years, I think it's like a really big improvement. I was talking to Anna the other night of the importance of making sure that the data we collect is not only high quality, but we also know how to analyze it. And I think that kind of is a key theme in thinking about data integration, forecasting, and collaboration, is making sure we have the people on our team to analyze the data for effective action after that, and to make sure we're drawing the right conclusions from the data that we're collecting. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And last but not least, so I'm introducing here my colleagues, Dr. Imran Ali and Mike DeSanti from the Humanitarian Water Lab. So Humanitarian Water Lab is an initiative of the Dahdaleh Institute for Global Health Research at York University in Toronto. And the mission of the lab is really to mobilize kind of cutting edge research that helps to develop, test, and scale solutions for water supply and humanitarian crisis and resource constrained settings around the world. So we were founded in 2021 as a way of bridging the gap between the research that was going on at the university and the operational programs that we support. So we work with partners from NGOs, the private sector, academia to identify gaps and practice with humanitarian teams and affected communities, and bring that right experience at the right time to the table to conduct research, develop and test solutions, and translate that knowledge into kind of real world applicable guidance and trainings. So we have a couple of projects that we're pushing at the moment. So we're working on the safe water optimization tool, which we'll be talking more about in the session. We also have a training offering an online intensive course on humanitarian water engineering. And with that, I'll hand over to Imran.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you everybody for being here on this Friday morning. So what we want to talk about today is measuring what matters. So we know there's sort of a truism in the sector that you can only really work on the things that you measure, right? And we often collect what's easier to collect rather than what's harder to collect. So we want to look at some of our experience in the humanitarian sector around water safety and water quality. I'll talk a bit more about this during the roundtable session, but the safe optimization tool emerged in the midst of a major waterborne disease outbreak in South Sudan, in which the entire sector was focused on water quality at the point of distribution, but not at the point of consumption, which is where we see a lot of recontamination happening and the public health burden actually bearing out. So we really want to focus on, are we looking at the right place and are we measuring the right things for the outcomes that we're interested in? So I look forward to discussing that with you folks during the roundtable and how that appears in your work.
Thank you so much. So now we have the opportunity to jump into these discussion groups. So could I have the co-conveners stand up? We're going to have the group, if we have group one on group one on open data in this section here. We have group two on data driving action in this zone over here. Theme three on data integration, maybe right at the back of the room. And then group four on measuring what matters right at the front here, and these two kind of front rows. All right. Yeah. So in your groups, you'll have a very short pitch from your co-convener, digging a little bit deeper into the topic, and then we'll have some open discussion.
Sorry, we're not doing our slide.
Did you want to do your slide? We've kind of went through your slide at the beginning. If you wanted to do it.
Okay, no, it's okay. I thought we were introducing our topic with this slide. With our other slide. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's fine.
Back.
Okay.
Okay.
It's okay. We just didn't go through that slide.
It's fine. Okay.
Sort of down on here and up or down. Others, you know, over time years, but also yeah. How can we so I'll start with water. Now we're doing this one here. We also kind of work, so not here, also done quite a bit of work. Rural bags, there's a lot of higher in Nigeria. That's been a water to water. on the ground and like where should to help with investment, but just finding a class and they have heard of the big forum. So basically, and so I don't know if that's really yeah, thanks, Jenna. Your first suggestion. Yeah. Like you jump back. Okay, I got it. But in there, and I like this is there's a lot of sure the ones that are doing they're out doing the operators talking about water quality on the radio.
I will see voice by part of it is we're sitting in a class and it reminds me of business. But you know, one of the, if you remember anything out of business school, it's like market driven companies do better with technology. Be market driven, that's why by that I think start with users of the data. If you want it to be used, start with users. So much research is done. Everybody has an idea for a PhD and wants to do that as opposed to the PhD in the country. Talking to the government or other people who would use the data.
Hi, welcome.
So
We're in a core discussion group.
that
Draft group is
having nature.
Operators, it shows more like matters. That's the room we're talking about kind of collaboration. Here we have government required.
And the household, they drive that.
How do we trigger we'll be rotating.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we're all going to decision maker and government and household, like makers and researchers, and then I just put like one bucket without thinking through like and whatever.
Also, the narrative creates trust is sort of a critical factor for data for purpose, and sometimes that's where you can get right. Number one, sort of are the folks who are in the narrative data around and number two is, are there data controls in place that data are only data for purpose, and are they measured that way so not just hey, we have a pile of data. We want to do it, but we're not too sure who right? We
Are not maybe as base and have other. So our, I know our. So. Yeah, there are.
Have that initial investment, so many things fail, because that ongoing process, you don't think about, oh, is that value added? Really?
Keep it data science and. I'm not sure.
Right, we have a problem. We have a problem, but our operational one.
We have to find ways to collect what we need on a regular basis. And acceptable and so far I have found. Good day. Very They're not making research or folks who work with data and research. They're like a ball when you start something on the data that you look at where you say what's going to happen to the data. Is there any guidance that given sort of research the right way? I mean, how to do it in a way that is likely to be used? I mean, are there protocols for that in the academic world?
I mean, I would say that, I don't know if there's gonna jump in here. I would say the short answer is no, but like, I know like. Like their data management system, publications more and more are requiring data. I feel like you have to that are accessible, but info, but I would, other than China, and we have some.
I guess what I'm thinking is there a need for someone to write a paper? How did good data how to do it in a way that's more likely that sort of guidance actually help people who research for a living increase the likelihood of what they're going to do is going to actually change some of these actions. I don't know. I thought like that.
Yeah. Almost nothing on the accidentality of we all do this. I've done this. We're not right at the time. We have the answer. This is that happens in the world and everything.
We saw that the field is green. We build this thing.
Okay, so, yeah, so there's a lot of that, and if I had good, guidance is one or another, that's not how I feel about it, right? I start with conversation about what fantasy I had in my mind about the decisions that this will influence, and then go find those goals and say, what kind of evidence do you need? What format, right? And then make sure that that's part of the process. But I have to say, that academic for all the effort that will be in that project.
So we found this academia is gonna put a hit on me.
I mean, that's why I was smiling. Academia is pluralistic, and there's always gonna be a corner of who want to find 10% of things that you can publish that actually matter. But I think when we write that paper, what it will say is 90% of the things that will get you attention no end users care about. And 90% of the things that end users care about, they don't need your help with. And there's that 10% where you can actually be useful. And you should focus there. And but I think, that paper is going to get read 10 times by the right 10 people.
I'd like to add, from the research perspective, right, we've been talking about research but also from funding organizations often run studies that are not really well aligned with government priorities. And so funding organizations are part of the problem of essentially not looking out for who are the users, and then they're just saying they're the users. So I mean, they get what they want, but it's not going to be a system. And I love that it's that that it'll be hopefully the field of dream approach. And so funding organizations that can have a fun.
There's an opportunity that I think will not be best, right? Because I know from the UCL, I think we've uploaded data, like we rarely, right? I mean, I'm probably people know about that, right? Like, yeah. But it's a good question. Yeah, and I think that is going to see more and more that are really public. That's for
What I just said about your point, I think it's actually brilliant. Check this out. Here's the first one. Here's the top 10 things that are going to make your data unusable. If it's not part, if it's incompatible with the systems that people have it, I don't know it's going down there. If those people aren't on board on the jump, they want to get the data. So you can check this out. Top 10 things don't do those. I mean, that's gotta be 50% of the way. So yeah, completely reversed on that.
Just to let you know, guys, this is your 15 minutes. So if you would like to, please do circulate.
can always be the planet, depending on like every planet.
There are, so there are opportunities for you do data collection that also literally make it useful and training at the same time, especially with weighted on top of that. So for example, if you're looking at the school law, we grab those checks. Not only like data, but it's also certain people what they should be doing, what they need for their own time. Be like the documentation
we're trying to do more and more about it. Science or other like, you know, from the beginning, and people involved, maybe there's some training, where does that, all this stuff together.
Yeah.
And something like.
I know people say like, oh, I remember that's not necessarily bad.
Yeah, I love this idea, like maybe we need a checklist, maybe we need like,
Yeah.
you know,
Do's and don'ts.
do's and don'ts that, you know, I'm sure some of that probably with some other sectors.
Some very engrossed conversations happening. We are at 15 minutes if you would like to switch groups. Yeah. Please, yeah. People move, yeah. Yeah, you can stay where you are. Audience move. And yeah, get some air. So yeah, as a reminder, guys, we've got 4 really interesting groups here. Data driving action is Aquaya over in this side. Yeah, no problem. How can I help you find what you're looking for? So we've got, yeah, kind of data sharing, transparency, attribution, protection. Which one? Sorry, that's stream 1, yeah. One here. We've got measuring what matters here, which is all about indicators. It's about, yeah. Honestly, if the data doesn't provide back to us. Exactly. That's one of the.
So that's why I went that way.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Get the target first and then work on that.
There's no to be market really. Talk to the people who you think are going to use the data.
Yeah.
We're just like the data is not living anywhere. right? Like all the effort. We are actually. And I think sometimes, we're not always focused on that. So I'm gonna start with examples or things we did things that we've had right now actually in the right? So we're just doing our daily test for testing today and find that here. So it's a lot of engagement over many years, different government stakeholders. They are upgraded, radio programs, and essentially the water story, water more, right? Like studying how we want to start safety, chlorinator system, that program, this is something that we're actually going to be next. Another example, so Ryan was also hired by the World Bank to perform one of their investments in Nigeria, and water quality throughout Nigeria. And waited on timing for that investment. They had to make their decision on their best for our technology. And that was the situation that I put into we're learning much more, but the factual and forming and that I want to say that I think I'll kind of make it about that for example, better to make sure that the data that we use does provide action, because the impact with it. So the research that we do or the work that we're doing on the ground, that actually around them.
They know what they need. They ask for
So we've actually basically like swabbing its hands and its water and interface right together.
And yet others are coming in and they're still safe. Well, it's like, and so like waiting for government to know what not to do. All day under.
Yeah, I mean, what exactly is it about this program that is
Either or already publicly available. You know, that might
like what, yeah, what values added is what I'm for right now. Maybe we need that. Okay, another example, we've done some work with standards, Kenya, which is social enterprise. And for many years, we had a discussion of like, they want to help impact. They want to health impact. Health impact trials, those are those things. At least that one, like scholars were talking, keeping the rocks meal. What we want, right? I mean, we all have been in the sector long enough that we know, like, understanding that what they wanted was more cost benefit analysis of like what's the model, in theory, like what are the time savings, what are the cost savings, what are the health impact, potential health impact, and we can make some assumptions based on the literature or what the plan is. And actually, that exercise was more with and that back off them for the answer that they wanted. As an I think we can scale.
No, yes, so that's my review. I work in Central America, and we do a lot of water quality monitoring. And I feel like sometimes we have an example of water quality, and sometimes we're not even reaction. We don't have reaction. But there is actually that's kind of ensuring that we're government that aspect of it. We almost have a little bit of right. I mean, like, costs is very important. What are you measuring? What
yeah, just maybe to bring Jeff up to speed. So we're talking about data to action, like how can we make certain that
So we have about 2 minutes left on this rotation. Thank you.
And what is it? What I mean?
We have 4 discussion groups at the moment. Okay. So we're actually just about to swap over. So we have over here, we've got open data, data sharing, transparency. In the middle here at the front, we have measuring what matters. So we're talking about indicators, we're talking about where we collect data. At the back, we're talking about collaboration using different data sources for forecasting and integration. And then over here, we're talking about how we can use data to drive action. Okay, so you get to okay.
So we have to be very careful what we need for. How do you define their actual over it's all about collect data and don't overspend money collect data. Let's carry it over to now, but unfortunately, you also have national, sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, everyone. We're at the end of the second rotation. If you would like to, please stand up and move to another session. Thank you very much.
Are those commensurate with getting performance going? In rural areas, for instance, you don't have to better implemented. Better implemented. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. For the same for rural. We are in the process of finding new rules people are and that's where we are knowing that what is behind all that because cost people time, money. We have
Thanks, everyone. So, as a reminder, we have open data over here, group 1. Got theme 2 over here with Aquaya data driving action. Theme 3 right at the back in the middle, we've got data integration, forecasting, and collaboration with the Mortenson Center. And right up here in the front, we've got measuring what matters with the Humanitarian Water Lab. Open data, so data sharing, transparency, security. The back you've got collaboration, interoperability and forecasting using different data sources.
Someone yes.
Right? Like, there's no point in collecting data. So I'm gonna start with 2 tables.
This is open data sharing.
And there's kind of a lot of engagement around local radio shows that over years, there was a lot of according to the local water. So, and let's start fluoridating our water. And we are going to be evaluating that, so we're going to leave it in the end of our we have all the work that Jeff we've been involved in some of them in Nigeria where we were actually water resources, water and the water quality and then it was very formed investment in water. But the next thing we were making a decision that was forward and our got a consultation out of that and we found things to think about what's going on. Didn't really do it. So, I just want to have the conversation about we're going to we actually I want to look into that first. And those of you that were here, I think that's or anything I forgot. And I'll ask you to make sure. Not necessarily agree with something that I struggle with is how long we're doing or whatever, how much we're do we consider good enough to judge whether we're waiting longer, allows for that.
So now.
That delayed back to your second.
Before it's just flowing water, like that's a little less, it's less.
Singing about and doing what's good enough. It just really said he's like finding what vision or what you're targeting. And I've been in meetings where
I mean, I feel like the government, their community does.
now, like, we have to, like, we're doing it easier before we figure out analyze and then we're right up, it's, and then I think like, depending on what the decision is and then.
We're not seeing.
Time as there's so many that are really relevant. In this room yesterday,
But they're also
the
lower
evaluation
resources.
five years. It showed very different results. And evaluation and right on with respect to impacts, whether it's a health intervention, clearly that's but I wanted to, I thought you were gonna, so Rachel has led a number of studies deriving a demand function for retreats. We're trying to figure out how much, what fraction of the population with retreat-based plastic and cement, correct? At different price points. And that was work that was commissioned by the World Bank because they were promoting the production manufacturing and nurturing the supply chain of these products. And the results were that the anticipated price point was far too high and then very too slightly. And so I asked, put you on the spot and ask you sort of what came out of that, like very concrete results.
Yeah, well, this one, I'm also like anecdotally, like, this was not what the world said, right? Like, they were basically, and this was at a time, this was the sector was sensitive or right? This was, and so I remember having meetings with government and media, and they're like, you know, the obvious thing is that there's or, you know, if you want to buy that, I was like, I mean, I don't know if that really, they didn't subsidize it.
That is alone, right? So
Right.
that alone is like clearly resulted in, we're not in a portion of the market population at that price. And there was no action to the price. Right?
Yeah.
So.
I can talk a lot. There sort of thing, we were running a randomized voucher trial, so we actually offered these.
Yeah.
But we. But I would say that work has potentially informed the sector, like the Sato pan, and thinking like, okay, we actually need a product that's $5 weight. And like, and I would say, and water and the. And they're working with the tree. No, I was agreeing. I feel her. Yes. But with other tables, I mean, right now, I think are working. I think I could probably stand up here and tell you another example of things that haven't informed me as much as you like. With either things that you see on tables or are promising or how we can improve the use of information and sorry, yeah, I'm Warren. We're from really struggle with letting get outside the markets right now as well as being but I'm seeing I'm working this other big pulling together private sector actors and better focused around shared data and a shared targeting point to have government. So that I think has some degree of success. Right. We're not
Perhaps implementation programs under contracts with research program institute.
Okay.
All the data goes into development data.
Yeah. But a lot of people actually need to not like more than political economy now or something like that. But sometimes we can do the job of an implementation of this project and still support data on the ground in a long-term manner by kind of convening organizations and setting up like ways to access local so work together and the number of where there are a lot of ways one day I'll
So we've got about 2 minutes and then we'll wrap up in plenary. Thank you.
And it's not a crowd is second for you. Not too many people have figured out how to sell water to the metal on Earth. You know, that's good because
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I do not. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Round of applause for you all. I don't want to take you away from these discussions. There's so much going on. I know we've got note takers furiously scribbling because I can see them coming out on the Miro board that I can see. So what I'm going to ask now is for our 4 note takers to come to the front of the room. And I'm going to ask you one by one to just give a really quick overview. You're the only people who have been in those sessions throughout the entire 45 minutes or so. So I just want your impressions of the discussions that have happened and what you've learned. Maybe some of the gaps and challenges of key themes that you've picked out. So yeah, 4 note takers, come and join me at the front, please. And you're up first. So yeah, if you could just introduce yourselves, introduce the group that you were note taking for, and then give some notes. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. My name is Haley Farrell, and we're all with the Mortenson Center in Global Engineering and Resilience, but I was note-taking for that session or that group, integration, forecasting, and collaboration. Across each conversation, I felt like we had similar themes along the way, and I wrote them all down so I can read them to you guys. So a lot of it focused around harmonizing data. Our first conversation had a lot of discussion around making it less extractive in communities. So ensuring that the data that we all collect can be collaborative. It can be something that we can all use. But then leading into our next conversation, while we want to harmonize that data, it's also extremely difficult for us to get the data that we want when our, like, just the language of asking certain questions can be so different. And we have to use a specific language along those lines. But we have to find a balance where we can overlay both of those so that our data can be collaborative and integrated into different databases, but also used for different purposes. And so it can be a little difficult, but that's the balance that I found along each of these conversations. And in that same sense, how can we take previous data that has been collected, use that data, but also use that data to predict future data? And so in that aspect too, it's the same question of how do we overlay that with what we're studying, what we're researching, what work we're doing, and use other folks' information to aid us in the future so it becomes a less extractive process. Thank you.
Hi, Anna Lynn. I was with the Open Data Group. Gonna keep it high level because we got nitty gritty in some of these groups. So basically, accessibility does not equal transparency, nor does availability equal accessibility. So keeping that in mind, especially when, you know, in academia, we can publish after studies are done to GitHub, but that's an R, and that eliminates or is a barrier to a lot of communities, especially in low middle income settings that might not have the resources or knowledge to extract the data from that or understand what it's saying. Additionally, it can also lead to some security issues or kind of do more harm, especially if the community is in a fragile context or has previous traumas related to data being exploited from them, basically. So in all, data can be, open data especially, can be a double-edged sword if not used correctly, or with the proper information or context associated with them. So keeping those two in mind is very important in the future and as we move forward in this.
So I was at the session for analysis and driving action. To start with, like everybody thinks that sometimes it's unnecessary to collect the data, and most of the papers that we publish, we don't actually add value, and like to collect data like for primary research also sometimes like lasts long and it doesn't actually inform any decision. But at the same time, sometimes we need that baseline data, but we don't. So like it's important to collect the data that we really need. So like, and there was one nice sentence, like writing a sentence you want to say at the end and feel like what is missing at that sentence. So this kind of approaches would be great to like understand how much data and what data we want to collect. At the same time, for the measurement and monitoring perspective, some like how long should we consider measuring evaluating the interventions after that, because sometimes they can be very useful with the continuous data also like in general, but sometimes they also don't inform any decision, and actually the collection of the data is costly. This was also very centered at the discussion. So really being mindful about the purpose of collecting this data was actually discussed in general. But if you want to add anything, Rachel, you can.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I was with the last group, which focused on measuring what matters. And to just kind of build off of what everyone has said thus far, given that data collection is incredibly often time intensive and labor intensive, not even mentioning that it's tend to be very cost intensive, our group really focused on narrowing down how you determine what matters. And that really comes down to several different questions as far as investigating. So we want to make sure we're encompassing all of the different stakeholders and looking at who will be using the data and what for, as well as how often the data will be collected and, what the duration of the time will be, other things like that. And really narrowing down on what is the purpose of the data that we're going to be using, who is going to be using it, and really making sure that it's serving the final purpose with an end goal in mind when we set out to take the data, so that we're making sure that it's truly being utilized in its full capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to open it to the floor. I'm really interested to hear kind of your feedback, your insights, anything that you've picked up, anything that's kind of surprised you. Particularly interested to hear about things that you feel that you can change going forward. So is there anything that you've heard in this in your conversations today about that's going to inspire you to make a change, do something different as you move forward? Any thoughts?
I'll just start us off. I'm bringing the real quick. I think one thing that came out actually in our first discussion group was, do we need more guidance in this sector on this? Particularly around data driving action. Do we need a checklist of the do's and don'ts on making sure that the data is the most impactful? Mm-hmm. So that was, I think it was actually that and Mike Fisher that had mentioned that, and I think that's something that kind of got my wheels turning and thinking like, yeah, maybe, what's already out there, but maybe we need something more WASH specific that that we have it as a before.
Yeah, so new guidance or adapting existing guidance to the specifics of the WASH context. Thanks, Rachel. Jeff, you had your hand up. Okay.
Our organization was spoken for.
Yeah, please.
Actually engaging people who will be using the data, and there will be, I guess I don't want to call it a consultant, but engaging the stakeholders.
Okay. Yeah. So engaging stakeholders, that's users of data. Okay. That's actually a theme that I kind of heard coming out of a lot of these conversations. So good to capture. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much. I know that we have been talking about something like data-driven kind of approaches of what's change, but then we need always to take at this time for everybody's trying to look at this time. Why am I asking this? To make kind of countries like Uganda, every revolution come and like one of this time. For example, maybe doing the same kind of work. So I think there should be like a national kind of repository to second nation. In case you really think we need to intervene, we use that existing data to come up with that. We shall not be the problem, the problem that there. And then what are we trying to bring to play?
Okay.
So national kind of.
Yeah, so that kind of information management piece and coordinating and collaborating and not duplicating, we hear a lot about kind of survey fatigue, data collection fatigue, both with our own staff, but also the people that we're collecting data from. Thank you. You had a...
Yeah, I think applied research is kind of throughout this conference more and more. I think there's a lot of practitioners that are collecting plenty of data, and it is on a contextual and localized kind of operational level, and it's hard to kind of, like that data needs to collect for the program to need to be, and it can't be like changed too much. But at the same time, I think formulating some of those questions with those practitioners on the ground and having research partners support kind of utilize that data further out. It's kind of a great way, I think, to more and more be aligned and not have to just kind of seek out data from everywhere and really just have these research questions together and make it all of that research should be more and more useful as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a wonderful pitch for the Humanitarian Water Lab. So well, thank you very much. Yes, Imran.
I expected that we kind of went around the circle and everyone kind of reported their challenges, and it was like a group therapy session. We struggle with, but I think so many of these problems are shared, and there's such a need for best practices around water data. And so I would love to see this group coming together to put our minds together to come up with the best practices. This is amazing. That was a big takeaway.
Thank you. Thanks, Imran. Yes.
As an observing non-participant of this exercise, it was interesting because Laura would ask individual people too, because she knows like the organization that they're with. And so everyone kind of was saying similar things, right? But how do we overlap those organizations? We're at a conference, we're here to collaborate. And so everyone's like trying to get that same goal. And so it's just interesting observing everyone saying the same thing, but it makes me wonder, like, can we do this together? But yeah, no, it was really interesting not participating and watching everyone talk.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think from our perspective, I mean, as the Humanitarian Water Lab, our dirty little secret is that we're here to meet you guys. We're relatively new to the conference. We're relatively new to this specific kind of space. And so much of the reason for this session and for meeting the co-conveners is that we would love to work with all of you to help you and to help ourselves kind of try and figure out some of these challenges, because as you say, they're not individual challenges, they're all shared challenges. Thank you. Jeff.
So in our group, Anna Murray from Aquaya made this really insightful distinction between data and information, and that's relevant to us in terms of how we collaborate and how we have a common language or a common set of best practices to recognize the difference between the incentives that researchers face and the incentives that service providers, development, bilateral, multilateral donors, governments face. They're a very different set of incentives. And all of you, I imagine, who are on researchers have had the experience of producing a long report that its intended recipient only read the executive summary for, if that. I'm looking at certain people. The point is that it's so essential to recognize that the conversion of the data that's so essential for research, that's our language, is not the language spoken by those who are making big decisions with respect to policy and program. And I mean, I'll give you one very concrete example. Does anyone do structural equation modeling here? No. There are things that we measure, right? Like chlorine residual, or uptime, or a specific pathogen and its frequency in an environmental sample. But then the question that we get from decision makers is performance good? Is it reliable? Does it fail? And so we have to extract a construct from what we measure. We have to convert it into it's reliable, right? Whereas reliable consists of a lot of different measures. And the further we get from a measurement to an assessment of whether something works or not, it makes researchers really uncomfortable, because now we can make a lot of modifications to satisfy perhaps what a decision maker may want. But that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, what do I do? Your data. We've got reams and reams of tables. What do I do? That's the best.
Thanks. Yeah, that translation from research, from data into knowledge, and knowledge in different flavors of knowledge for different stakeholders is really key. Thank you. Yes.
I mean, I think that the whole point of data, at least from my perspective as a funder of practitioners and people who are implementers, is to change decisions or to help people make decisions. So I would reiterate that you have to start with the people who would use the data, understand what they need, and go from there. And too often it is top down or it's sort of research driven, as opposed to user driven. And I'm sure there are good reasons to do academic research that is not user driven, but it would be nice if some of the data actually were used.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Bringing that user-centered design maybe into the way we program. Thank you. Yeah, finally. Yeah, thank you.
Design is like, oftentimes those users aren't in the room, even when this is so, and then maybe they are, and then at the end, they're not involved in the process, so they really don't get to pivot, make the information useful to them. But I think that having them in the room when the grant is written, or whatever research is conceived of, is for, and then involved in the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm speaking from the opposite side, speaking from the operational side, having research in the room when we're developing our proposals, having that kind of collaboration at the planning stage, so that our monitoring plans are at least informed by the kind of data requirements and research requirements is absolutely key. So yeah, thank you. So that pretty much wraps us up for the session. Yeah, it's been a real honor to be here to kind of coordinate this and to bring these, as I said at the beginning, all-star cast of co-collaborators on board. So would like to thank all of the co-conveners, would like to thank our wonderful note takers. You did an amazing job with summarizing all of that information. And thanks to everybody in the room for bringing your ideas and reflections and energy to the Friday morning. Thank you very much. Coming. Yeah. I was worried it would be a complete silent room for 45 minutes.